Everyone, it's Mr. Curtis and the fourth grade team today, and we're studying fractions some more. And today we're going to focus on solving problems using addition and subtraction with fractions and mixed numbers. So there's some review and some practice. Take out your notebook paper and pencil, and again, like always, push pause and rewind as you need to. So of these numbers here, we have some mixed numbers and some fractions. So I know you can't drag the ones, but where would 3/4 be? Is that a fraction or a mixed number? No, yep, it is a fraction. The numerator is less than the denominator. We have 3 out of 4. How about 2 and 1/4? Bingo. 7/10 or 7 out of 10. Yep, that's a fraction. 3 and 6/7, we have a whole number, and we have 6/7 as a fraction, so of course that is a mixed number. And 2/5, 2 out of 5. If I have 5 cookies and I ate 2 of them, I have a fraction. I did not eat the whole set of cookies. So here we are with some sums that can get us to a new whole, sometimes even the first whole. Here we have 3/4, 3/4, plus an extra fourth. Well, as you know, that gets us to another whole, a whole dollar. Now, of course, if you had 4/4 in your pocket or purse or your wallet or your ashtray, in my case, yeah, that does equal a dollar. I could trade it and group it for a dollar bill, which is kind of nice if you don't want a bunch of change. We can also prove that by working with fractions here. Here's a model where we have 1/4 plus 3/4. And so if I fill in the whole, here can prove that 3/4 plus that extra fourth gets us a whole new. So push pause and write and complete these equations in your notebook and press play when you're ready to check in with these. All right, so hopefully you finished these 2 problems in your notebook. Hopefully you did them neatly. So let's go ahead and do the fractions first. 1/5 plus 4/5 is 5/5. And then 3 plus nothing here in the whole number gets us 3 and 5/5. But do you see something there? 3 and 5/5 is correct, but you know what? We could take that 5/5 and we can actually regroup it to make another whole. And if we do that, if we make another whole, what's 3 plus that new whole? That would be 4. Yeah, so 4 is the answer to this equation, is most simplified. Over here we have 1 and 7/10 plus 1 and 3/10. I would do the fraction first. I'm going to go ahead and 7 plus 3 is 10. And remember, we do not add the denominator. And then we have 1 plus 1 here. So we have 2 and 10/10. But do you see something there? Of course you do. You've been great this whole time. That means we can actually trade that 10/10 for a new whole. So if we trade that 10/10 for a new whole, we now get an extra 1. And then what is 2 plus 1? It's 3. So we can kind of just move those out of the way, and the answer is 3. But the big thing to think about, and here's the rule, is whenever, I'm going to move this up here, sorry guys, whenever the numerator and the denominator are equal, that is equivalent to a whole number. Right? So if I have 7 out of 7, that's a whole. If I have 3/3, that's a whole. And let's say I have, let's see, let's change it up just a little bit. Let's say we have star over star. We have the same thing. I know they're not numbers, but you get it. That is also worth a whole. Whenever the numerator and the denominator are equal, you can create and trade in for a new whole. Now, we're going to add and subtract fractions without regrouping. Okay, so remember that we add or subtract fractions separate from the whole number, like separately. And we don't add and subtract the denominators. The denominators, like sixes and fifths, they just tell us how big the fraction piece is, right? So I already put my denominators in there because the six aren't going to change until you maybe simplify later. But push pause and fill out these two, and we'll get back with you in just a moment. Okay, you're back, so hopefully you worked on these equations and you noticed you didn't have to do any regrouping. Let's do the whole numbers first this time. 3 plus 1 gets us a whole number of 4. And then 2 6 plus another 6 would get us 3 6. So if you get 3 6 and with a 4 whole, great. Now subtraction. Let's start with the fractions this time. 4 fifths minus 3 fifths. The denominator doesn't change. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then the 3 whole minus 2 is 1. And we have 1 and 1/5. Excuse me. So we can notice here that we don't have to do any regrouping. That's great. So this is going to be part of the homework tonight. But I did want to kind of review that just to kind of make sure we're keeping that blade sharp. Now this is the big one, okay? And this is what we worked on last Wednesday. But we're going to add or subtract when ungrouping and decomposing a whole are necessary. So we have a problem here. We have 4 1/3 subtract 1 2/3. Now if you look, this 2/3, I don't have enough thirds to subtract. So I'm going to have to regroup. Now regrouping is pretty simple, but we're going to just do this. I'm just going to take off a whole. Boom. And now, do I have the same thing? I just basically cut that into thirds, didn't I? So if I go ahead and look at my math over here, I'm going to change this. So now I subtracted a whole. So now I have 3. And then I have not just the 1/3, but I have the 2/3, 3/3, and actually I have 4/3. So now I have 3 4/3. That is the same as 1 2 3 4 1/3. The reason why is we don't have enough. So let's go ahead and do the subtraction. First off, let's take away this 1 whole. Okay, that's gone. And now let's take away 2/3. I'll take away that third, and I'll take away that third. And what are we left with? 1, 2, and it looks like 2/3. 2 2/3. We just ungrouped, didn't we? Now for this addition problem, I already put my tenths there. Remember, we don't add the denominators. So when I get that, 2 plus 4 gets me 6. And then 5 plus 9 gets me 14, but I have an issue, don't I, here? My numerator is greater than my denominator, so we have to simplify. We have to ungroup, right? So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 10 tenths. We're going to trade 10 tenths for a whole. See, over here we subtracted and then added. Well, here we're going to subtract and then add on this side. We're going to take away 10 tenths because that's the size of the fraction. So when we do that, we only get 4 tenths. Oops, stick in there. We get 4 tenths. And then when I add my 6 plus that new regrouped 1, 6 plus a regrouped 1 is 7. So I have 7 4 tenths. So those are the ways today, ladies and gentlemen, where we can add and subtract by ungrouping and decomposing and all those other things we talked about earlier. On the slide, you have some problems, and there's a question on the bottom where we want you to write which of the problems on the worksheet slide was the most difficult. Please press rewind and pause as you need to and watch it over and over and let us know how you're doing. We're looking forward to your responses. Have a great day. Bye for now.